Hi everyone, welcome to Stories from Our Stitches. I'm here with Linda from Color Storm Yarns, and I'm Valerie. We are continuing our conversation from this long thread by Jen Hewitt and
Continuing
talking.
chapter one. Yep.
Yeah, chapter one is the interview with Sonya Philips, who is a cut and sewist.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even you used that term sewist last time also. That's new for me. I'd only ever heard seamstress. My
Mm.
my grandmother was a seamstress. Um, and is it the word sewist kind of the most recent thing, or is that all what you've ever heard?
I don't know because I'm very familiar with seamstress and yeah, that's a great question. I don't know where I picked up the term.
Well, I noticed it's in the book. I think I saw it in the next essay in our book. So sewist maybe is a more current term. Let's assume that you're right in with the vibe as always, and I'm always a little behind catching up.
No, no, no.
But to continue Sonya Philips' points, last time we talked a lot about the importance of sort of the origin stories of ourselves and for them, and just the importance of persevering. There's no shortcuts to your skills. And then also, the next thing that came up for me was she makes the point. I'll just read her writing because she's a good writer. The clothes that you make do not need to look like what is hanging in the stores because those are designed to be made on an assembly line. They are designed to be made and possibly also designed to be cut in the most economical way. What works for a ready-to-wear garment does not necessarily work for a home sewer. So why are you, as a home sewer, trying to achieve that? Which is a good comment for me, because certainly, I guess I thought the point was to make it look like what was on the package. So yeah, Linda, why were you trying to do that? I mean, she makes a point when we're shopping for clothes that we're ready to wear, we're trying to conform our bodies to what's out there. And Sonia's point is, hey, when you're sewing, you have the opportunity to conform it to your own body. It doesn't have to look like what's in the store. And that was a good point for me.
Yeah, that's such an interesting take on the whole thing. Like, yeah. I mean, ready to wear and conventional sizing, if there's even such a thing in women's ready to wear clothes, are a new, relatively new idea and concept. Like, all of the clothes that humans have worn for centuries have been made to fit their bodies. And so the idea and concept of mass production and standardization are relatively new.
Now, the ready-to-wear market has expanded a little better over the years. I've noticed, that we have stretchier clothing now, and different different kinds of things to buy. You can buy a slouchy pair of jeans, or you can buy super fitted. There are some options out there, but in general, I hear the point of not conforming. Um, Not necessarily trying to make something look like what's on the package. And it made me ask the question, in my knitting, have I ever just knit in an experimental way, not just trying to make it look like the pattern, but just purely for experimenting? Have I ever done that? And I could only find one example.
Listen, the way that I see you as a very experimental knitter
Okay.
from our interactions, because you're very thoughtful and observe the result that you get, and then you adjust if you want something different. And so you have no qualms at this point to change a pattern to fit your vision.
Yes, I feel comfortable doing that in knitting, but
Yeah,
not
100%.
not as much in sewing. Maybe because I never got to the proficiency level that she's talking about here. And I guess that's part of the point is you have to build the skills until something becomes intuitive, and then you can be more creative with it. And I've gotten there with knitting, but I asked myself, why not do more of that with sewing? I'm sure I have the skills. I just didn't really think about it.
To me, I think that the cut and sew skills, the concepts of fitting a flat fabric on a three-dimensional shape, right? Because that's what cut and sew patterns are, supports the knitting, because when we're knitting, we're actually creating the three-dimensional shape as we stitch
Yeah.
with our yarn and our needles. So, like the concept of a short row, right, is just adding that fabric. And depending on where you put it, it would be the equivalent of cutting around a larger curve.
Hmm.
And, we can achieve that in many different ways with our knitting.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, I brought something to show. It's like the only thing I could think of that I actually experimented with and really didn't ever care if I wore it. I don't often give myself that permission because, the yarn that I use kind of costs a lot. And for me, the whole point of making something is so it has a function. But that
Mm-hmm.
also comes up in our reading, the whole idea of craft versus art and
Mm-hmm.
how appropriate is it to feel selfish about what we do? If it's crafting, maybe it's supposed to be functional. That's the point.
Yeah.
Um, and if it comes under the category of art, then maybe there's less pressure to be functional, and maybe there's more permission to be selfish and be exploratory and be expressive. So I liked all that thinking in the book. In this sweater, I'll hold it upside down. You can see that when I started, I was really trying hard to pull my colors in a column.
Mm-hmm.
I was fascinated by that idea. It was
Yeah.
an idea that came up in a Vogue pattern. So at the beginning of the sweater, which is the bottom, I worked really hard at setting up these columns, letting
Wow.
my pulling be exactly the same. How many stitches does it take to do that, and can you continue to line up those columns? And then you can see as I progressed onward, I gave up.
Huh?
Um, but it was an interesting experiment. I even I knit a tube, and then I did somewhere in here. Oh yeah, in here there's ribbing to kind of
Yep.
cinch in a waist,
Mm-hmm.
and I left armholes so that I
Very
could
nice.
theoretically wear it. And I
Yep.
put on this kind of
Wow.
fashion collar,
Uh-huh. Wow.
and I even made a belt. I bought
Oh
these
my goodness.
I bought these ends and made a belt
Uh-huh.
so that I
Wow.
could further cinch in the waist, because it's just kind of like a big shapeless dress.
Yeah. But it has visual interest. It's
Yeah,
really it's interesting to me.
it was fun to try. It was
Yeah.
it was an idea.
Uh-huh.
And because I decided when I was playing with this yarn that I didn't like it pulling randomly. I really liked the colors as individuals. And I
Mm.
wanted to try to keep them separated out instead of pulling all different ways.
Yeah.
Um, so it was an experience.
Mm-hmm.
It to me, it's a piece of art. And I did wear it once or twice. I even went to the thrift store and found a purple long sleeve shirt, you know, that I could wear with
Very
it.
nice.
I think it looks terrible on me, but I'm glad that at least for once I was able to just try an idea, be willing to fail, and just get into the technique and the artsy fartsiness and the pure enjoyment of trying an idea out and not worrying about whether it worked or not.
That's so great. That's so good.
What parts of the essay or the interview with Sonya did really hit home for you?
Well, I'm in the middle of a cut and sew experiment project also, which is just, I'm thinking about the timeline, and this is all sort of lining up, not deliberately, but sort of serendipitously. Um, and it's an avant-garde concept. It is so simple that I have only watched a handful of YouTube videos. And I set my goal is to try it 3 times,
Wow.
like leveling up each time. So there's a sequence. It's using bed sheets, which just feels so weird and wrong. And I'm just like, it's an experiment, it's an experience, it's an exploration in creativity, and in all probability I will never wear what these are, and that's okay. But it's a stretch. Like,
Hmm.
I had to make my own bodice pattern, so I've never done that before. And guess what? It turned out really well. It fits really good. So, like all these things that for me are seem very like out of reach and difficult, like are not as hard as I thought. And like how often I default to, like I learned how to make clothes from patterns. So like I default to the big four companies, the Vogue, the Butterick, Simplicity, Berta, right? Like they're the experts. But how many times have you made a printed pattern that didn't fit well and was hard to understand?
Mhm.
you know,
Wow.
all,
So you've done the Sonya Philips challenge, the 100 dresses. You're doing it 4 times, 3 times?
three times is my goal. We'll
That's
see.
fantastic. Just
But
even do something 3 times. That's fantastic.
But also, I was thinking, like, I don't know if I have 100 friends to do the 100 dress challenge. Like, I give Sonya Philips so much props because, like, I'm going cross-eyed over my goal is 3, and she had a big goal of 100, and just I bow down.
I know. Well, I, I've rarely made something more than once or twice. So 3 to me seems just fantastic. And that's so it's a shirt
It's a
or dress?
dress.
It's a dress. Okay. Well, I hope you can show it to us when you've finished.
We'll
That's
see.
fantastic. I
It
commend you
might
stretching yourself.
it might never see the light of day, but we'll see.
I doubt it. Yeah, this whole thing of art versus craft, has that ever hit you one way or the other?
Oh, all the time. Like, for me, I don't understand the break.
Mm.
For me, it's like one word, like art and craft are just a unit because I don't understand the difference. If the working definition of art is you're supposed to feel something, art is supposed to evoke emotion, then what isn't art?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever that discussions come up, I think for me, I feel like I'm creating art if I'm not copying exactly. Like it's okay to be inspired by someone else's work, but to be art, I think it has to be mostly original. And yeah, to me, the emotion is automatic. Everything in my being comes from my emotions. That's just maybe because I'm a woman. I don't know. But
I think we for me we can say human.
I think men feel a lot of emotion too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's definitely the emotional aspect. There's definitely the um if it's coming from if it's coming from me, then it's a original, then it's art. It's very personal. It's whether it's a sweater or a room design or you know or a homeschool lesson. If I've poured my heart into something original, then for me it feels like art.
Yeah.
If I'm just copying something that's really all technique and no originality, that to me is what crafting is. But as soon as you've mastered technique, right? So many of us then want to take that to the next level, um, and start being creative with it. And some people I think are just quicker at that than others. Some people, as soon as they master something, they want to go creative, and other people really just like living in the craft part and never want to be creative. But there's just so much value in that also. The skill of being able to reproduce something well, has been honored in state fairs and um, very in circles of the industry and the art world all over the place. So there's a lot of value in good technique as well. So the fact that they are linked together, I don't have a problem with. I think that's just kind of my own personal distinction, the difference between crafting and when craft becomes art. But it's not hard and fast.
Yeah, I don't know where that line is, and there's a lot of overlap. There's a big gray area.
Happy gray area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking about like a quilt, right? There's iconic quilt patterns that we all know on sight. Like we all know on sight. Even if you're not a quilter, you know the quilt pattern on sight. And someone making a quilt from that motif or design, are they an artist or a crafter? Right? Like
Well,
they
someone,
picked all of the materials to go into that piece.
most of the quilters
And
I know are designing all the color elements of a quilt, even if they're copying a
exactly.
pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know some young quilters who buy the stack of quilting um, shapes
Yep.
already
Mm-hmm.
made and they're just copying a pattern. They're
Yep.
just trying to learn the technique, and that's easier for them right now. Um,
Yeah.
that's fabulous too. I mean, let's be as inclusive as possible.
100%. Yeah.
But then if she decides to leave that color out, and actually she's got something else over here that turns
Mm-hmm.
her on a little better, well, for me, she's becoming an artist. As
Yeah.
soon as she changes it a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
go for it. Follow that instinct, because a lot of us have good artistic instinct. So trust it.
Hmm.
Follow it.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so interesting.
Well, good. I think we're wrapping up this chapter with Sonya Philips. Next time,
Yep.
we're going to talk about the interview with Adriana Rodriguez. And she talks about un mantilito blanco, a little white blanket, and it's crochet. So I'm excited to talk about crochet next time.
That'll be so good.
Okay. See you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.